Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Trainers Forum. Our guest for tonight is Mr. Con Abraham, who will be saying more about himself. And our topic for tonight is the challenge of making emergency training more effective. Con is a valued speaker who has been honed in his craft as a speaker in the Tambuli Toastmasters Club with the title of Competent Communicator. He's also been a guest on television shows where he spoke on emergency and rescue services. He is a volunteer fireman who is also a certified first responder. As you can see, he takes his training and his rescuing very seriously. He's also a volunteer fireman who has trained well and has served for many, many years. He's also been among the very first responders who went to Tacloban during the Typhoon Yolanda disaster. He is also a teacher who teaches first responding in schools and an avid dragon boat racer. Good evening and welcome to the Trainers Forum. My name is Dino Santos. I'm a DTM and I'm also a talent director for the Southeast Asia Speakers and Trainers Bureau, a co-host of another show on YouTube and on Facebook called The Leader's Edge. And tonight, our topic will be all about the challenge of making emergency training more effective. We're joined tonight by a great guest. His name is Con Abraham, and I'll allow him to introduce himself. Con?
All right. Thank you, Dino. So again, I'm Con Abraham. I'm a current right now with the training consultancy of Speakers Bureau, and also I'm a former high school teacher. And on the other side of my life is I'm also a volunteer firefighter, search and rescue personnel. And aside from that, I'm a fitness and strength conditioning coach. And also I engage in different sports like I'm into duathlon, trail running, off-road mountain biking, and I also compete with it and dragon boat teams. So that's me, very active.
Wow, that sure is quite a lot of activities to do. Clearly, you have a very, very active lifestyle. And not only that, it seems to me that you thoroughly enjoy everything that you do.
Yes, yes, definitely, definitely. I focus on it.
Yeah. Now, because you're one of the talents of the Speakers Bureau, one of those who have taught for the Speakers Bureau in the past, and I do recall your first experience as a trainer doing team building for us. I wanted to get your take on how you feel about the relevance and the effectivity of some of the trainings that occur in the corporate world right now, especially when it comes to emergency drills or training for disasters as they occur. How do you feel about those, Con?
Okay, good point. The idea that I've noticed is that every training, every drills that I've seen in the previous corporate or residential condo living is that sometimes it always takes a backseat. It's quite okay. It's hard to say, but I'm going to say it's mediocre. It's not taken seriously. And I've been exposed to different experience responding to fires, all of those trainings, all of those things. I've seen even security personnel who would like falter in real life situation when there's a fire. And even though they have this training, everything of that goes out the window.
Mm.
So every training, every opportunity to test the equipments, the whole personnel, the building's capability, the course of action should be really put to test because that the seconds really matter. So again, it should be taken seriously into context because in reality, the whole training won't be taking the whole day. So I believe that you should really take into in consideration and really spend a few hours for that. The few hours of training, the seriousness of it will be more in order for to mitigate future real life cases of accidents or life threatening situations.
Oh, wonderful. It seems that you aren't as happy with many of the trainings that are currently going on right now. I'd like to briefly share with you my own experience during an
Okay.
earthquake drill in one of the major buildings in Buendia Avenue Extension, where we were asked to evacuate the building because of the mandated earthquake drill, and I did not see the following things. One, no sense of urgency. People were complaining about, why do we have to do this thing every year? It's the same banana. Why couldn't we just take the elevator? And that almost made me shout. I said,
Cringe.
that's the whole point. We're going down the stairs because in an earthquake, the elevator would leave you stuck. Uh, in fairness, I understood why this woman was complaining, because we were all the way up in the 21st floor. And by the time we ended up in the collection area for employees, it had taken us well over 45 minutes to get down there. Um, and I'm sure you will agree, it sometimes fills you with dread, with frustration, when you see people who should be moving as though their lives depended on it, holding on to their cell phones, playing and maybe surfing through their Facebook accounts while they're walking leisurely down the stairs. In reality, should a real earthquake occur, I doubt that that's what they would be doing. What do you think?
Okay. I've seen this I won't name the condo just for
Okay. Yeah.
privacy. People actually froze. When I say froze, they do not move out of their unit. And even in residential, people will just really cry. And even adults, like like yourself, for example, I've seen like burly guys, like like just keeps asking, but they're not moving out of the danger
Mm,
because they're not really emotionally, mentally prepared with it. And if there is going to be a future training for this either condo for this corporate, it should be it should be creatively given to them instead of the usual run the run cover hold. I seem to forget all of it because I have my own standard way of responding to it. Anyway, it should be given in the context of not just a like off the shelf. Because when I do sometimes disaster training and I've been asked that you cannot give a off the shelf to different to the same people because you have to consider also the age, the mobility of the family members, the
mm,
place. You also have to consider that because I've seen in condo hallway once the electricity is cut off, it's almost pitch black, and
mm,
the wall, even though there is successive door, it would all just look like the funnel.
mm,
And this is also what I've noticed is that even though there's a situation ongoing, and this is what sometimes I get annoyed. People still do take time to take pictures and and I after although I have this idea of why they're doing that, it still is fire or crowd control like in trust selection. Even when their life is in danger, they're still taking video. I just don't know.
yeah.
So it should be creatively designed, and it should there should be a sense of accountability and responsibility, not just to the personnel or to the management handling it individually.
Mm,
And this is what I really advocate. You should have individual accountability. You could not give a responsibility to that building admin, to your boss. No, because in reality, when that SHTF strikes,
yes.
it's for everyone, and at the same time, someone who's going to lead them, you cannot give responsibility to the other persons. Then you feel entitled to complain. No, You should be responsible for yourself.
You brought up some very, very interesting points. Like number one, training shouldn't be just the responsibility of the facilitator, but clearly there should be some form of, say, squad leaders or floor leaders who is respected, admired, and perhaps is influential with the rest of the residents on a particular floor, who would lead them to safety. That's very, very clear in what you've shared. Likewise, it seems to me that you're also saying that there can't be a uniform way of teaching people how to respond to emergencies, because
Yes. Yes.
buildings are different from one another. And while other buildings may, for example, have a more direct path to the exit, other more artistically or architecturally more creative buildings might have a different way of accessing exits. And so I'm with you there, and that uh, training that will be given for them must take into account many, many factors. Among those will be the design of the building, the occupants who will be living in there, because you've mentioned as well that if they're elderly or if you have persons with disability, in as much as it's so tempting to leave them out of the training because they're old or they're infirm, they really shouldn't be. They should still be part of it, because when, as you said, the thing hits the fan, they will be doomed unless they're part of the evacuation process. They're part of the evacuation procedure. In other words, some people need to be put in charge of helping them specifically survive a blaze or an earthquake. Con, you did mention earlier about your being a volunteer fireman. Could
Mhm.
you tell me, for example, how did the fire department prepare you for the reality of a real fire? I mean, how did they make your training effective to the point where it helped you be mentally ready for the real thing? I mean, did they do anything extraordinary to help you get there?
Okay. I love your question. First off, again, remember I mentioned everyone should have their own accountability, responsibility. When I joined being a volunteer firefighter, I decided on my own. I take responsibility for my own that during the training I won't censure, I won't give the blame to my fire chief that actually during the training I got injured 2 times. And one of them is kind of life threatening. I almost get paralyzed. But I didn't blame it to my fire chief or to the whole premise of why did I go. I just did self therapy, and up to now I'm still good. So going back to that idea, uh, you should have your own um, accountability, and at the same time a really strong, simple mindset. And for me, my mindset as a firefighter is it's as simple. I am a snappy firefighter. I don't have to broadcast that. I don't have to tell that to everyone. I hold it to me. I am a snappy firefighter. I hold that to account every time I would respond to certain situation, and and I've already proven it because I've been in a situation that there's a safe, and I've been asked because to get that safe out and to open it because I'm the one with the crowbar, and I said okay, we're going to open it, but I need witness, call the other fire chiefs for the BFP to have it. And when I also got exposed to my first deployment as a firefighter, it was uh, in Divisoria. The
Oh
okay,
yeah,
the word is
the
New
Tutuban
Divisoria
Mall.
Mall. Yes, the Tutuban Mall. At the same time, it was one of the oldest mall,
Yeah.
and it burned for about approximately, if I recall, 4 to 5 days. I was on the
Wow.
second day,
Yeah.
and it was so hot. How hot? The whole elevator melted. The whole elevator
Yeah.
that's how. hot it is. Okay, so when I responded there, I just switch on to all my training. I just switch on to my mindset. I just switch on to my training. I stayed focused. And I put on a mantle of responsibility of a tasking, because once you're inside the fire scene, it's almost okay. I'm going to say this, almost like a disorder, a organized chaos inside. And in order for me to have that organized chaos, I had to take on the responsibility because I'm familiar with taking points. So I had to take points because I have with the so far complete equipment. So clearing the debris, the obstacle, I had the gloves because the other responders do not have the gloves. Then I have the flashlight, I have the equipment to literally take points and lead the others in order for us to extinguish the flames. And it was 2 days that the second day of the fire I was there. On the third day of the fire, I went there, um, taking on the other sides of the building, and we were also. Wait, I'm also do. It was my first time also to manage the crowd control because I was also exposed when I maneuver to the other side of the building. The aisle was where the jewelries were being sold, and I had to clear my way with the shelves. Okay, and this was curious because I was thinking, are these like jewelries? Like, hey, then I was clearing. Just imagine, I was clearing it. There were looters behind me.
Oh my
Eh,
God.
just imagine. Okay, I had my hand forward, while clearing the shelf. Underneath my arm, there's a guy's arm grabbing the jewelries,
Oh my.
and, and there was the flame in front of me, and then they knew where to go, and I was like shoving them away. There was just like four, if I recall, 4 to 7 of them, shirtless and like making ruckus. They really wanted to loot the jewelries. I just had to show the shelves for in order for them not to get off the loot.
Okay.
So,
So
so anything?
I'd like to ask a few questions here. Clearly, your training was for putting out fires, of course, and keeping yourself safe.
Mhm.
And
Correct.
yet, my question is, as you were doing your duty of helping people survive that blaze and trying to put out the blaze, um, how close was your training to the actual experience of being in a fire? I mean, what did you go through to help you prepare exactly for that moment? Was it like a deja vu moment for you, or was there some kind of culture shock between how you trained and what actually happened?
Okay. Good point again. Before I answer that, remember I said that the training should be intense. Okay,
Yeah.
the training should be intense in order for you to prepare that. My actual training by it was like 8 weekends, Saturday, Sunday in Makati Sports Coliseum.
Mm.
Because the St. Thomas Fire Makati adopted me to be one of their volunteer firefighters, although I live in Quezon City. Anyway, the training that they provided was rigorous. I have to admit, it was rigorous. At the same time, our fire chief was really stern, strict. But I love his way of disciplining us and giving us all this really lifelong real world experiences and trainings that he shared to us. The training that I went is different from the actual.
In what way?
Okay, first off, they didn't train you to do the crowd control. At the same time, to be like resilient, still pushing through the somewhat the difficulty, and also the immediate leadership skills that you're going to do once you're there. Because remember, I said organized chaos. Because instead of like uh, uh, a melee almost inside there. You had to remain focused and assess the situation and at least lead the others, especially the other beginners, the uh, new recruits, in order for you to get the whole instead of like free for all, you have to focus all your energy in order for you to contain, suppress the fire.
I have an interesting question for you, Con, because I know that part of your experiences, which are quite varied, isn't just about fighting fires, but
Correct.
part of your training and experience has been in rescue as well.
Yes.
Uh, how did they prepare you for that? Did you lift mock-up dummies and bring them down from, say, the fifth floor all the way to the ground? How did you simulate a realistic rescue?
Okay. Regarding the dummy thing, the actually it's about 3 years ago that I've undergone because I enrolled in a CERM, Canadian Emergency Response Management. It's in Maribeles, Bataan. It's a 2 days course, and that's when I get to engage with a 150-pound dummy.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. But it was also it's like an advanced course for firefighting. Okay. Now, in order for you to because it's different when you're strapped with your gear and you're sweating, it will all like including the breathing apparatus. Total, you'll have about roughly 50 pounds plus.
Mm,
Include also the sweat
yeah.
that has been absorbed by the gear, and it's really difficult for that to move. Okay, the thing that you're going to manage it is that again your training, the proper posture of lifting, and
Yes.
at the same time breathing management, because you're breathing through your face mask. When I say face mask, for the breathing apparatus, and at the same time the stress of the the enclosed area, the heat, the smoke, everything, the stress, the sense of urgency, the sense
Mm,
of urgency also there, because every second counts. So you have to resort back to your training, to your mindset, and to your determination, and to your own accountability.
mm.
Definitely, I'm a big proponent of that.
Okay. So just to keep in sync with the theme of our show tonight, um, I do bring up the issue of, say, effectiveness in all our other emergency or disaster drills, because clearly not everybody's taking the earthquake drills seriously. And some people will take their fire drills seriously because it's part of, say, having a building recertified
Yes.
and be given approval to continue operating. uh, but you've brought up some really, really good points, because, like, for example, the real experience of a fire, for instance, will have no semblance at all to the well air conditioned, the well lighted fire drills that everybody is accustomed to. In my mind, as I thought about this, shouldn't people really be taught how to, say, for example, get down on all fours, maybe even asked to wear a blindfold, and then, be within tapping or grabbing distance of somebody's belt, and then using, for example, muscle memory to feel their way across the floor until they get to an exit? Because in a real fire, the smoke would be so thick you shouldn't be standing up because of smoke inhalation. And in a real fire, the wiring would already have been burnt out, so lights would probably be non-existent, and it'll be dark, it'll be hot, it'll be scary as hell. And if they're not prepared for that reality, um, when the real thing happens, they're off going to be running like chickens, or frozen in fear and unable to move at all. Um, as a firefighter, you've had your share of going through buildings and finding the charred remains of those who were unable to help themselves. How do you feel about what they could have done had they been trained properly?
Okay. This is a quite um, intriguing. Okay, intriguing to answer. Okay, because based on my experience and observations, you also have to be creative enough in order for you to respond. Okay. Now, going back to the idea of, like what you perhaps just what you just mentioned, like tapping distance, muscle memory, it will be effective if it's done and practiced and drilled every day. It
Hmm.
won't it won't be as effective if it's only done for, let's say, two times a year.
Yes, you're right.
Okay. Okay. So, in order for me, like, to directly answer that, is that people should be encouraged to have that situational awareness. And the simple thing is that is, actually ask people whenever, okay, as the office day closes ends, don't use the elevator. Literally use the fire escape.
Yeah.
So that they will know how many paces, where to go left, where to go right. Because even if they're in panic mode, they'll still remember because of the concentration. And it won't take
Mm-mm.
too much time whenever they would go home, because they're going home. It's okay for them to get sweaty a little bit, and at the same time, it's a workout, it's a muscle memory for them that this is where to go, this is where to turn left or right. And
Mm.
aside from that, also encourage for the people to have that mindset, have that mentality of self
Mm.
accountability. Okay.
Indeed. You're right, because if you look at blind people who are somehow able to take care of themselves, even if they live alone in their condo units or in their houses, they find where their dishes are, their clothes are, where the chair is. They don't bump into things because of muscle memory. They simply don't need to be able to see anymore. They know where everything is. And so I'm with you there in that it becomes easier to remember if it's something that you do constantly.
Yes, yes.
And it's a just challenge because, for example, there's some buildings, especially the more modern ones now, that refuse to let people use the fire escape for security
Yes,
purposes.
definitely, I agree with you on that.
Yeah,
It's
they have this security swipe card that
yeah,
you have to use, and there will be a sign at the exit saying that if you use this exit, the alarm will go off, so please don't use it. And so we have buildings now and companies that essentially encourage people to take the elevator for even the simplest things like
two
going,
floors.
yeah, the 2 floors exactly. um, so it discourages wellness and it discourages safety in case of emergencies. Um, I wish we had more time, for example, because I'd love to talk to you about, say, how do people train for example, the active shooter. Like what if somebody comes unglued in a manufacturing plant and then starts shooting people left and right. I'm pretty sure that's not part of the curriculum of our security agencies, and
Yes, yes,
certainly not part of HR's typical action plan or training. So as a result, people will perish unnecessarily because nobody knows what to do. But that could be a topic for a future show.
sure,
Uh,
sure.
for now, though, um, I'd like to have your take on, for example, creativity, because you did mention
Yes,
uh, we can be creative in how we simulate reality, because, and I sort of got the hint of why you were mentioning it, because also many HR managers or many companies are afraid of lawsuits that
yes,
may occur if their training is so realistic that somebody injures themselves, and when they injure themselves on company time, the company is liable for that. So of course they don't want them to wear blindfolds. Of course they want the exits to be well lighted so everybody will know where to go, because if anybody gets hurt uh, complying with the fire or earthquake drill, then the company is liable. So I
Mhm.
totally get it. But we could still be creative, I suppose, in doing training such that it's effective, it's realistic, but doesn't necessarily put people in any real danger. What do you think?
Okay, I already had that experience. Okay, I won't name the building.
Okay.
The condo, it's in near Libis.
Oh,
It's it's one of the buildings. Anyway, I brought up this kind of training wherein it's like this. Okay, actually, what I'm going to tell is it's almost part of the first module that I've offered today. For example, this floor has like 15 families, 15 doors. Okay, now what we're going to do is that we're going to have a small town meeting for them and ask them who would volunteer their unit to have this simulation. It's like a
mm,
fishbowl method. And for those who's going to volunteer, I'm going to tell them what in the presence of the building admin, the property manager, that this is the kind of simulation that you'll be undergoing.
mm,
And it's going to be uncomfortable for all of you. And that's why we need for you to be volunteering for it. If they said yes, fine. Then the other tenants, the other residents, are going to see it so that they're going to feel and see how it is ongoing, how it's going to see unfold, and how the emotions are going to spill out. And after that, after the simulation, after the training, after the drill, I'm going to talk with the tenants and ask for their feedback. And aside from the tenants, also from the building admin, if their equipment can be used, or is it still updated? What are their expedient equipments that you can use during a certain situation? So at the same time, it's not as expensive. At the same time, it's creative, and at the same time, you'll have this, like almost as close to intense as much as possible in a controlled environment.
mm. Wonderful. At least that sounds like a serious effort on your part to make things as relevant and as realistic as possible. Now, I'll sidebar for a bit because one thing that has been affecting us seriously for the last several months now is our response to a different kind of emergency, of the pandemic kind. Um, Clearly, our disaster risk reduction efforts have really focused more on earthquakes and fires and possibly a tsunami, but nobody, I guess, really saw this pandemic coming. So, what could we have done differently, you think, in terms of preparing people for this eventuality? Because chances are this could happen again.
Okay, again, I promote mindset, accountability, and this is one thing that if I may say so, in the military there's what we call human intelligence, psychological operations, psychological warfare, and it's not just for the government. It's directly for the people. Do not engage in malicious gossiping about this pandemic, about this virus. Stop all of that, because it's going to trigger, like cortisol, like stress to the people, and they're more, susceptible to illness. So stop with all of that emotional turmoil in social media and going out of your house just to take picture, just to prove that people are, where in fact you're also the one who's adding to the adding to the unnecessary situations. So aside from that is also, actually the government is taking its necessary steps, and we cannot complain for that, because this is a humongous responsibility. It's not just for the responsibility for the government, but for within our barangays, for the local communities, within ourselves. and it should be taken again in your own self accountability, self responsibility, and at the same time follow the rules, because the rules are there for us also to for our own sake also. And aside from that, from following, also avoid, like degrading also yourself. When I say degrading, because remember our body is the one who's going to affect it. And during the March 15 start, and I've been observing this every time that I would like have to go for food supplies in our place. It's no falter. I've seen the massive influx of junk foods, sodas,
Mm,
of people ordering it. They're ordering it because they want to feel good of themselves. They're rewarding themselves. They want this in order to have this feel good. In reality, buying those junk foods, buying those unnecessary foods are more expensive. At the same time, it's detrimental to your health.
mm,
Keep ourselves healthy. Keep ourselves healthy. Do not depend on the government. It's not doing enough of that. Everyone should be accountable for their own health.
mm. So
Ev-
I get what you're saying. It seems like it's also important that as part of the training here, it's to not only, again, as you mentioned, mindset, in that self accountability, which is a common thread throughout all the different kinds of scenarios for disasters. But one thing that's also very clear in what you're saying is, we should be training ourselves to getting news only from reliable sources,
Yes,
because fake news and hysteria can only hurt us in the long run.
yes,
Uh,
definitely.
Much better to get it from the most reliable source, verify it, and then comply instead of being part of the problem. Be part
Yes,
of
definitely,
the
definitely,
solution.
definitely,
Um,
definitely.
Having said that, I'd like to ask you a question in terms of, because so many people are trying to deal with this pandemic. Say some will say herd immunity, um, but I think what's really happening is herd purchasing. Like the ridiculousness of so many people buying carts and carts of toilet paper.
Toilet paper.
I don't know where that came from. uh, that was just utterly ridiculous. um, Apparently, their behinds are more important to them than their medicines, or than the basic necessities of life. I don't know why toilet paper suddenly became such a big deal for these people.
Actually, they
Uh,
copied it from the US.
oh, okay. So
Because the US, some of them doesn't. Since we're going broadcast into
yeah,
international,
yeah.
some of them don't use bidet. They use toilet paper for cleaning themselves up. And here in the Philippines, what do we use? Dipper, in the vernacular tabo. We use that. We do not need toilet paper. I do not use toilet paper. I use the Filipino way, tabo. Very hygienic. Just
That's right.
definitely wash your hands. Wash your hands after that.
In fact, the only thing that I saw as possibly of any real value in what they were doing with all that toilet paper was in a situation where society really crumbles around them. They'd use it as barter items,
Yes,
if it came to that.
yes.
That's its only real value, apart from, you're right, the tabo system. So, let's review. I
Okay,
like the
sure.
things we have been talking about so far. So uppermost is to have the right mindset, which
Yes,
is
definitely.
number one, self accountability. We cannot, while we say we should not be depending on anyone else or the government for our own survival, for our own safety, that doesn't mean we don't obey. What it does mean is that we need to be self sufficient, because if we do not take actions to take care of ourselves, then we have no business blaming anyone else when things go wrong for us. Like for
Definitely.
example, that simple rule of wearing a mask every time you step out of the house, or the encouragements to wear gloves, or a face shield. That it's not because anybody's trying to impose their will on you. It's for your own sake. It's for your own
Safety.
safety. So that's self accountability. Number one, I get that. I got that from what you were saying. It's so true. And number two, is that we can be creative in our approach to simulating reality in a training scenario, all without, say, the danger of lawsuits from injuries or from people getting hurt. Although um, there's also a saying, those who sweat in training will not bleed in battle. So
Yes, definitely.
it's it's impossible for people to undergo any kind of disaster or emergency training and expect 100% no injuries. If because in reality, if you rush out of a burning theater, somebody is going to get injured.
Yes, trample, definitely.
So it's part of life. It's part of the training. So uh, just grin and bear it. Accept that injuries are a reality. But what we can do as far as being creative is to try to minimize it while acknowledging that it's a real possibility that people will get injured. And I think a third that I took from what you're saying is that um, there's also a need to be personally resilient in the sense that, as you said, you almost got paralyzed because of your fireman's training, but you decided not to say anything about it. Instead, you sucked up the pain and you went on. You persevered because I think what I got from that final sharing that you gave was that it became more important to you to qualify to be able to save other people's properties and lives than your own comfort, than your own safety even, because in the end that's what firefighters do. They it's like what the pararescue, so that others may
May
live.
live. Yeah,
Yeah, so and you had that mindset, so yeah, that helps. Clearly, a lot of the things that we have been discussing today revolves around the right mindset, because whether you try to simulate emergency training as close to real as possible, I'm talking about SAS and their kill houses, or I'm talking about airsofters and their room clearing training activities. It could be as real as that, or it could be as simple as almost like a team building activity, but considering all of the actual circumstances, but just simply using creative means
mhm,
to stimulate reality. Um, so it all begins with the mind. As we say, all battles are won in the mind before they're won anywhere else.
definitely.
Right?
Yes, definitely.
Uh,
I agree with that.
so I'd like to close our session this evening with a question, because you also mentioned that you were into dragon boat
Mhm.
competitions, and clearly
Dragon boat training.
that is not one of the easiest things for anybody to do, because that clearly sounds like a lot of upper body strength is required, a lot of stamina, and
And
uh,
a lot of this because
and a lot of tolerance, because if you're the last dude on the canoe or on the boat, all of that seawater is in your face. I mean, the guy at the very first part is blissfully spared from all of the splashing, but if you're at the end, you get it
actually
all.
I'm in the end and I'm already
You
drunk.
are in the end.
So in the rear, I was like 20, so I'm in the bow side, so I'm in the 10,
Mm.
10, 10.
So
So
I guess the question I'm leading up to, and the thing I'd like to leave our viewers with is, what drives you to go through to take the most difficult kinds of trainings, the most difficult kinds of position. Like you said, you're the point man when you respond to a fire. I mean, I think that nobody would like to be the point man in responding to a fire. And then in a dragon boat race, you're the last dude who's the one who's going to get splashed. Uh, how does that help you? I mean, what kind of mindset is that?
Okay, now going back into mindset, I've compartmentalized my mindset. I have a different mindset for, as a firefighter, as a sports, in life, as being a family member. So I have different mindset. And the general mindset for this, just enjoy life.
Mm,
Enjoy life, experience it, you know, taste it, feel it. Those are my mindset for living a life. If you worry too much, if you worry about dying, if you're going to worry about illness, you won't get anywhere. You have
mm,
to take risk. You have to take calculated risk. And going about is again self accountability. If you get injured, don't blame your friend. Don't blame the team members. Don't blame the fan. No, suck
mm,
it up. Learn from it. Every situations, every endeavors that I join, that I participate in, I'm just going to have fun. I'm just going to have fun. And
mm,
when it's life saving, the fun isn't there. Stay focused, and be a meaningful person. So live life, enjoy life, experience it, be a meaningful person. So these are the things that I always think when I'm going to different endeavors. That's why if it's painful, it's part of life. Yes,
yeah,
because remember when you're in pain and you grow out of the pain, that's what makes you stronger. That's why Nietzsche, is it Nietzsche? Friedrich Nietzsche said, "What doesn't kill you simply makes you stronger." Or is it
yeah.
Joker? I'm just joking with you, Joker.
That's true. So as they do sound like cliches, like no pain, no gain. The only easy day was
What is
yesterday.
yesterday?
But these are all true because
Yeah,
if you don't have those mindsets, then when the bad times come, when disaster strikes, when emergencies occur, and you don't have the right mindset, no matter what kind
you'll
of training
falter.
you have,
You'll
you're
falter.
you're going to fail, right?
Yep.
But if you have the right mindset, then the battle is already half won. The rest
Yeah,
is
definitely.
simply knowing what to do next. Mm.
Hmm.
So, ladies and gentlemen, again, it's been a great evening, and it's been a terrific pleasure to have had Con Abraham, volunteer fireman, dragon boat aficionado,
Teacher,
adventurer, yeah,
former teacher,
former teacher,
and
and
a coach.
also, yes, uh, as our guest tonight. Perhaps in the future we can invite him to share with us. Other things, other aspects of survival, other aspects of
Preparedness.
mind setting and preparedness. So, thank you again,
Thank you
Con,
also,
for
Dina. Thank you. Thank you, Dina.
accepting our invitation to be on the show tonight. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank you for tuning in tonight. Tonight was season one, episode one of the Trainers Forum. So, until next time, we hope that you tune in again.
All
Good
right.
evening.
Thank you, Dina. Good evening. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.